The Nine-Tailed Demon Fox. This was one of the greatest plot devices in the series, and was good enough to be repeated by many other shows as well as in Naruto's own sequel. The idea of the protagonist with high hopes, yet a demon in their hearts ready to take over. I would argue that it symbolizes the monster in every human, the potential to do bad, to do evil. But just like the protags of these stories, how much power we give to that side of us is determined by our own choices. That being said, Kurama actually came around eventually. What was the aspect that the tailed beasts were all evil monsters like Kurama or like Shukaku, who spawned the hellion side of Gaara, eventually melted away into a more sympathetic light, the hatred in their hearts being destroyed by the all-around good-boy-ness of Naruto. And despite their rocky start, Naruto and Kurama eventually became best friends. That was up until Kurama passed away due to his use of Baryon Mode. But with his character growth bringing him from selfish to self-sacrificial, I think that makes him a perfect candidate for a what-if involving him returning back to the beginning. So why don't we go ahead and get into that. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into it. As Kurama faded away, the densely packed chakra that made up his form dissipated into the air as steam. Kurama was content with this. There had been a point in his life where all he had cared about was his own freedom, where he would do anything at any cost to free himself from his host and take his revenge upon the village that had so wronged him. And now he was dying for that Jinchuriki. He was dying for that village. And you know what? That was just okay. Kurama had seen much in his life, and during his time living in the cage that was Naruto, Kurama was forced to take a long, hard look at the world around him from many different viewpoints. Usually he had been hostile and hateful. He resisted every attempt to be changed. But eventually he was left with no choice but to look at things from Naruto's perspective, to look at things through the scope of hope, through the lens of love. And his life was never the same. The moment he learned to finally let go of the hatred that was hurting himself as much as everyone else, he felt like he was finally alive. And even now that he was dying, that still held true. Even in the process of dying, what he was dying for, he felt more alive now than he had ever felt during his time marred in the mire of hatred. Kindness and generosity were not lost on him. Love was infectious. Love was contagious. When it finally broke through all the layers and shells that had been built up to separate it from the rest of the heart, it truly touched the most sensitive part of Kurama's soul and soothed it. You know, maybe this isn't so bad, Kurama had thought. And in that moment, he was transported back in time. The moment he had accepted love back into his life, he was awash with nostalgia, with a sense of calm and freedom that he hadn't tasted in years. In that moment, he was once more on the lap of Hagoromo, laying there, getting belly rubs, being scratched behind the ears, being loved again. The idea that anyone could love a monster like this without cost, without expecting anything in return. True love, true godly love, it changed everything in Kurama. And now, as he was passing on, possibly unable to come back as most cases generally were, he knew he would be okay. Whatever happened to him next, he was always going to have that love in his heart. Looking down on Naruto's crying face was the only sour point in this. To know his leaving was going to cause the boy who had grown not only into a Hokage, but into his best friend, so much pain, filled Kurama with a bittersweet feeling. Bitter in that his death was going to hurt others, but a subtle sweetness that he would be missed. His absence was going to leave a hole. For years, Madara had spoken of how hatred was born from love, how love should exist independent of pain. But Kurama now, as he passed on, finally understood where Madara went wrong. Love was not destroyed by pain. It was fulfilled by it. Pain was the benchmark that allowed all to know what love was. It was the needful contrast that gave vibrancy and meaning to all the colors of the heart. And even in sorrow, even in death, pain was okay. Pain proved there was a heart. Pain proved that the love was real. Pain did suck. It hurt a lot. But in some cases, Kurama felt as though it was a needful thing for beings with a limited memory. It was a painful reminder of the good things that came with caring. And though a hole was left in the hearts of many, the memories made that were filled with love through pain were polished into fine gold that would sit in the space that Kurama once occupied. A nostalgia and a happy place that in the midst of strife one could retreat to in order to find respite. It filled Kurama with a certain feeling that he was hard-pressed to express. To feel happy and sad all at the same time, but for that sorrow to be somehow edifying the love within him and others. It simply showed that, to some degree, Madara was right. Love and hate were a causal nexus that could not be separated, because love and pain were the same thing. True love could be viewed through pain, and now that Kurama was finally understanding love, finally understanding the point of his life, he felt he could pass on peacefully. Would he reform through the chakra that existed in this world? Or would his soul simply move on to heaven, where it could exist with Hagoromo once more? Exist with Kushina and Mito? In so many years, he had hated them. But now, looking back, he knew that bad things happened for a reason, and that had he never experienced that, he wouldn't be where he was now. And where he was now was where he was supposed to be. He felt fulfilled, and he hoped that someday, in some way, he would get to express his gratitude and love that had, though late, blossomed into a bouquet of red roses and irises dedicated to them. He hoped, and in that moment, the existence he knew ceased for something else. What it was that he felt next, he was unconscious of. He felt a hand, many hands, grabbing him by the pelt of his back and dragging him somewhere. Once more, there was darkness. There were subtle images like that of a dream. Was Kurama sleeping? What was this he was feeling? It was a nightmare. It had to be a nightmare. He saw destruction, battles, wars, PTSD maybe. No, there was a roar he'd hoped to never hear again. The roar of the Ten Tails, and it was rising up in guttural fashion from Kurama's own throat. He only caught glimpses of two warriors, two figures. Were they Susanoo? No. One was a Susanoo of bright blue color. The other was a six-paths Kunitsukami, a three-faced, six-armed monster just as powerful as a Susanoo. It was Hagoromo and Hamura. There was a unique feeling for Kurama. He felt as though his soul was ripped from his body once more and pulled into another. He was sealed again, and in that moment, the nightmare seemed to end. It all seemed to calm. A feeling like sickness rushed over him. A fever brought on by the stress and strain on his mind from these things, but during those moments he remembered his time with Naruto. He remembered all the good things in his life that had brought him joy, that filled his heart with that intoxicating and addictive emotion called love. Keeping focused on that, he maintained his sanity until such a day as he felt a set of shears. He felt weighed down by something, but in that moment the shears cut him free, and he was allowed to forget his pain he'd experienced for some time. Years, maybe. Centuries. Millennia. Or was it just for a few hours? Minutes? Moments? Time was relative, and for Kurama that meant that he had no sense of it. All he knew was that he was in anguish one moment, and now he wasn't. His mind, holding on to himself, finally reformed completely. He opened his eyes in darkness to see that he was once again in a physical form. Is that what it feels like to die and reform? Kurama asked. I feel bad for Isobu. He didn't just have to do it once, but twice. Kurama looked around. Where am I though? I don't sense anyone. Kurama began to think about Naruto. I need to get back to him. I hope he's okay. I hope he's still alive. I want to see him again. Kurama took off, running through the darkness, searching for anything to tell him where he was and where he needed to go to see the one he cared about again. That was when he saw a certain light. He couldn't quite make it out, but it was the first thing he'd seen while running, so he approached it. As he did, he found himself in a familiar room, and before him, with a familiar man. Old man Sage, Kurama said as he saw Hagoromo standing there. Hagoromo looked over at Kurama. Kurama spoke. It's been so long since I've seen you. He lowered his face to the ground and lovingly pushed his snout up to Hagoromo, who gently began to pet it. You remember me? From when? From your time as the Ten Tails? Kurama shook his head. I mean, I have fuzzy memories from that, but they're so distant that I can hardly call them memories. I'm talking about all the other things. Our time together 1,000 years ago, just you and me, and the other beasts, and just... Kurama was smiling in joy, overcome with nostalgia. The sage, though, maintained a look of confusion. All the while, he continued to pat the nose of his newest creation. 1,000 years? Hagoromo asked. Kurama nodded. Give or take a little. It was 1,000 years ago that you gave me a form and we started to have fun. Then you let me go free before your passing, and I experienced so much. A lot of good things and a lot of bad, but in the end, your descendants really showed me what it means to live. Hagoromo was confused, though pieces were coming together. The secrets of the Six Paths power was still a mystery, even to Hagoromo, but it seemed like in some way Kurama had been born with memories of a time that had yet to happen. Hagoromo understood. Kurama, you say you remember these things. How? Kurama's eyes opened up with a bit of confusion. I remember them because they happened. Kurama looked around. Where are we? Are we in heaven? Did I not reform after death and just pass on to here? Hagoromo realized it. Something strange had taken place. Kurama had perished in the future, which made Hagoromo sad to know. But there was a bit of joy in realizing that he brought with him the lessons that Hagoromo had hoped he would learn. But all the same, circumstances had changed, and he needed Kurama to understand what kind of situation he was in. It would do the nine-tailed fox no good to remain unaware of things. So, where's Naruto? Kurama asked. Is he okay? I know our transformation took a lot out of him, but I want to make sure he's still alright. I'm scared that the removal of my chakra from his body killed him. Hagoromo turned fully to face Kurama, where he took the snout of the fox and placed a kiss on its wet nose to show the affection that Kurama would need in a moment. I believe a strange event has transpired, Kurama. One that I possess no knowledge of, but can somewhat understand. What do you mean? What is it? Is Naruto okay? Hagoromo then spoke. Kurama, I do not believe that the Naruto you seek exists yet. Kurama was visibly confused. What do you mean? Hagoromo continued. Kurama, I can't explain it, but I believe that somehow you've been transported back in time. The things you speak of have yet to happen. You see, you spoke that I created you 1,000 years ago, but that's impossible, Kurama. Kurama sat there questioningly. Hagoromo then continued. I only just now created you. Kurama was suddenly hit with a realization. You look younger. Hagoromo began to offer more comfort to Kurama through hugs and rubs to the nose. It seems like you must have perished in a noble battle, and somehow your soul was brought back to the beginning. Why? Kurama asked. Did I do something wrong? He began to look into his history. I did so many things wrong, Kurama said as sorrow began to take over his heart. I don't know if it's because you did anything wrong or not, the sage said, but don't let your heart be troubled. This is a blessing for you, a chance for you to relive all the best parts of your life. And if you did make mistakes, this gives you the chance to try again without making them. Kurama seemed to understand, but there was still something in him that felt troubled. Hagoromo stood there and felt a certain trembling coming from Kurama's body. He didn't understand what had happened, and because of these things, he was scared. Such a big, powerful beast feeling such a feeling. It really reminded Hagoromo how fragile a heart was, how beautiful the heart was. Kurama, if there was anything we could do together right now that would bring you peace and comfort, what would it be? Kurama thought about it. I would just love to spend time with you again. I want to do all the things we used to do. And what did we used to do together? Hagoromo asked with a smile. Kurama smiled himself. I used to just lay down and listen to you talk, listen to your heartbeat while you scratched me in all the good spots. Good spots, let me guess. Behind the ears, like this? He began to scratch behind Kurama's ears. Kurama smiled, took a deep breath in, and slowly let it out. Slowly but surely, the trembling ceased. Hagoromo continued to offer Kurama a pure, unconditional love to bring him peace and comfort. Kurama's heart calmed, and he began to slowly accept things. But questions lingered on his mind, such as why this happened. These things the sage could not answer. Should I try and change anything then? Kurama asked. I made a lot of mistakes, but they all worked out. Should I do things differently? That's up to you, Kurama, Hagoromo said. Whether you change the way you do things or keep them all the same, that is completely up to you. But just know, whatever happens, I will be proud of you. For now, though, let's focus on the moment. You and I will be together for a good many years, and so let's enjoy them together. I also have a surprise for you, though I guess a surprise isn't exactly something I could do if you already know the future. What is it, Papa? Kurama asked. The sage spoke. I've made brothers and sisters for you, so you will never be lonely. A conflicting feeling came over Kurama. He remembered the other 8 beasts. Eventually, they became friendly toward him, but they rarely got along when Hagoromo was no longer in their presence. This was something Kurama told the sage. "So I don't think they'll like me," he said. The sage offered Kurama more care to settle his nerves. "You're a different fox now than you were before. Maybe through those changes you'll be able to befriend them. Maybe because of your wisdom you can teach them things. Despite everything, you've lived a life that none of them seem like they can measure up to. If that is so, then your role will be the older brother. Guide them with your wisdom and your caring paws." "I'll try my best." And so Kurama attempted to do so. He tried to teach them things he learned during his life, and tried to be kind to them, but there were just some things that could not be taught with words. Some things had to be taught through experience. With the entire group fighting over who would be the greatest, Kurama did his best to stay away. He didn't wish to let them know that out of all of them, he was the strongest. Kurama didn't think that because of pride or anything, but because it came to his attention that Hagoromo had not split the chakra of the 10 tails evenly, and had given them power in accordance with the number of tails they had. Kurama had learned early on that he was 2 times as strong as even the strongest tailed beast. But as said before, Kurama did not believe these things out of pride, and as such did not ever mention these things. In fact, he deferred to the others and let them call themselves the strongest, because if they needed that for their egos not to collapse, then he would give it to them. Due to him not even being in the running though, they would often come to him and ask him to judge. "Who among us is the greatest tailed beast, Kurama?" Shukaku asked as the other 7 patiently waited for his answer. Kurama would look at them and speak. "Who is the greatest? Well, who is it who understands what it actually is to be alive? Who understands how to care?" The tailed beasts began to roll their eyes as he was once more speaking of love like he were the sage or something. "So what? Are you calling yourself the greatest since you apparently know these things?" Son Goku asked. Kurama shook his head. "No, not at all. I don't even want to be in the running because that title means nothing to me. What I'm trying to say is that who's the strongest physically doesn't matter. What you should strive for is who's the strongest of heart. That means a lot more than physical strength. Even the weakest person in the world can become the strongest if their heart is strong enough, and their bonds pure enough. Who the strongest beast is does not matter. It never mattered. What matters isn't how much power you have, but what you do with it. That determines who the best beast is." The other beasts heeded what he said for but a moment before Gyuki immediately shouted, "I have more tails than you and my tailed beast bombs are even more powerful than Kurama's. I win." They began to fight again, so Kurama walked away and went back to his special place to rest. Hagoromo would walk over to him, having heard what he said. "You're correct, Kurama," he said as he placed his hand on the fox's head. "Be patient with them," he continued. "They haven't lived the same life you have. They simply do not know, but give them time. With your guidance, life will teach them the wisdom they reject now." Kurama nodded. "I just hope they learn it before it's too late." Hagoromo looked at Kurama with a smile. "If they learn it late, then it is no fault of yours. Some things are meant to happen, even things we might consider bad. Because sometimes the things that are bad lead us to better outcomes. Let them grow at their own pace, and you continue to grow at yours." Kurama let off a nod. But this time of peace, even if a good reset for Kurama, could not last forever. And the worst part was, he knew about it. Kurama, though he never said it, knew the exact day, the exact hour of Hagoromo's death. But this didn't mean he didn't prepare, because he began to tell Hagoromo of certain events that would happen, and gave him the option to change it. The idea that giving Ashura the sageship over Indra would cause such conflict astounded Hagoromo, and it led him to believe that he made the proper decision on who to give it to. However, Kurama instead would tell him something different. "Papa, you shouldn't exclude Indra." "Oh? It's not that I wish to, but if the darkness that exists within him continues to exist while he's a sage, he will destroy everything I've built." Kurama would nod. "You spent many years fighting for and building up this order of shinobi, and you should be proud, but don't be blinded to Indra's own efforts and suffering. You see, for his entire life, he's done everything in his power to become an acceptable son to you, studying his hardest in an effort to be accepted. I believe what drove him to darkness isn't that he wasn't the sage, but that despite everything, he still felt as though you did not accept him. It made him feel as though his life's work was for nothing, and that filled him with bitterness, not only at Ashura, but at you, and at Ninshu as a whole. Not because he hated these things, but because these things hurt him more than he could express. And in an attempt to heal, he began holding a grudge. I can understand these feelings because there was a time when I was in a similar boat. So I implore you, please, don't leave Indra out. So many people will die if you do. He's not a bad person, he just doesn't yet know how to deal with disappointment. Go easy on him. Hagoromo listened to what Kurama said. He sighed and he smiled. Your wisdom seems to transcend even mine, dear Kurama. I will take these things into account when I decide who will surpass me as the next sage. From there, Hagoromo would debate within himself what was the best course of action. He would see Indra study so hard while Ashura did basically nothing. Sitting down with his son, he would speak. Indra, why do you study so hard? The black-haired Indra, his crimson eyes displaying pridefully as if trying every which way to emulate his father, spoke. To be worthy of the position of sage, father. One day you will pass your legacy on to me, and I do not wish to be responsible for its failing. Hagoromo scooted forward. Why is it important for you to be the sage, though? Have you ever considered that I could choose Ashura, or even someone outside of my own bloodline? Indra's face displayed a level of shock and pain on it that was hard to hide. A visible gulp was seen in his throat, moving the cartilage around his larynx up for a moment. Hagoromo put his hand on his son's knee to bring him peace. I just want to know why you crave it so badly. If it's to prove yourself to me, you needn't do that. I see in your actions every day your dedication. I see how hard you try, how far you go to please me. I'm truly proud, but there are times when I want you to focus on you. When I want you to realize that perfection is unobtainable for us mortals. To realize it's okay to go have some fun. Look at your brother, for instance. He hardly studies at all, yet I remain proud of him because he understands at least one aspect of what I hope to teach. You understand the other half, and I feel you two could learn from each other. Father, why are you saying these things? Hagoromo looked down. I'm afraid that you two are slowly drifting apart. Your brother is like the sun, and you are like the moon. The earth requires both, but you shouldn't be far away. Even the sun and moon come together every once in a while to provide an event to the world that so many view as beautiful. I never want you to forget the importance of others. To carry everything on your shoulders is a weight neither you nor I can carry. You must learn to let go of the books and the continual physical training and learn to understand the importance of having fun, of building bonds and relationships, because so long as you believe that you can do everything yourself, you'll never reach the level I know you are capable of, the level of a true sage. But the moment you understand that you don't have to be perfect, the moment you learn to spread the weight and to let go of any and all pride, in the day you learn these things, as Ashura has, I will know that you've reached your fullest potential. And the moment that Ashura learns to be as disciplined and as determined as you, I will know that he too has reached his fullest potential. I suppose if I am to say what I want to say simply, it would be for you and your brother to learn from each other. I believe that there are two sages in my family line, not one. And I believe that if you two come to terms with that and understand to kill off your own motivations for the sake of everyone, it will work out perfectly. Pulling his son into a hug, he spoke. I am already so proud of you, Indra. You've reached the absolute in your studies. Now it's time for you to reach the absolute in your play. Remember what it was to be a child, and remember what it was to have fun, and I feel you'll reach the balance that I hope so much for you to attain. So sit these dusty books aside. You've read them 3 too many times, and now it's time for you to play. It's time for Indra to be Indra, not Hagoromo. Giving his son a kiss on the forehead, he felt all of Indra's muscles loosen. I guess I could indulge a little. Hagoromo smiled. Go, my son. Join Ashura. Have fun to your heart's content. Indra would go to join his brother, and during this time, Indra would attempt to teach Ashura the things he did not know. It took some time, but their bond began to grow. Kurama watched all from within Hagoromo and began to think that it was likely that they would give up their feud. Maybe things would turn out okay after all. The time came where Hagoromo decided to pass his title on to both of them. To Indra, he gave the yin energy, which allowed for Indra's Sharingan to awaken into Rinnegan, just like his father's. This gave joy to Hagoromo. You look just like I did at your age. I see the wisdom in you, and the caring nature forming. Remember your strengths, but also your weaknesses, and never be afraid to ask someone for help. In covering the weaknesses of others with your strength, we form a well-rounded society. And to Ashura he gave the Yang energy. That gave to Ashura truth-seeker orbs and awakened in him the power of wood release. The Kunitsukami, the guardian of the land, was Ashura's, and the Susanoo, the storm guardian of the heavens, that was for Indra. The two of them together were to complement each other, and together lead the path forward into peace. And as the sage passed away, both Indra and Ashura remained close by his side. Kurama and the other tailed beasts were then freed from his body and allowed to wander outside of the sage in the world again. How long had it been since Kurama had this level of freedom? To exist outside of a person and have real legroom, enough to run and play, enough to enjoy his life, enough to exercise. And though he missed the sage and missed Naruto, he continued to live his life and enjoyed each moment as it came. He began to worry though. What if what he had done had altered the future so much that, what if? Kurama shook his head. Surely Naruto will be born. After all, he is the reincarnation of Ashura. And then another realization hit him. Indra only reincarnated out of hatred, and Ashura only reincarnated to stop Indra's reincarnations from destroying everything. What if they don't reincarnate? Well, Kurama was right about some things and wrong about others. One particular thing he got wrong was the manner of their reincarnation. Neither Ashura nor Indra ever did reincarnate in a literal fashion. Their reincarnation was solely based upon their will being passed down to a new generation, who also happened to be born with a chakra near identical to that of the two boys. This did not mean that they couldn't reincarnate again, nor did this mean that Naruto would not be born. This didn't stop Kurama from worrying about it though. But besides these things, Kurama came to realize that some things just don't work out the way you'd expect them to. Despite the fact that Indra and Ashura died as brothers, close and remaining in touch until their last breaths, this didn't mean that their families remained friends. The Senju clan and the Uchiha, while remaining close, weren't the only clans in existence, and wars began to pop up across the world. Why? Because even if chakra was meant to bring people together, it could be used as a weapon, and inevitably there would be those who would choose to use it as such. And because destruction was easier than creation, the people would fall into cycles of conflict. Kurama did his best to mediate an end to these wars. However, despite these things, wars continued to be waged, and one day two great warriors would be born of two very close families. These two would be known as Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. The two sons of the sage, their chakra reformed within these two. This brought hope to Kurama that he might one day see Naruto born. He craved and desired to see his friend again. Together, Hashirama and Madara would fight, and through the mutual shedding of blood, sweat, and precious tears, the two's bond would grow deeper until the point that Madara, through sharing of chakra, would awaken the Rinnegan, and Hashirama would awaken the Sage Mode of the Sage of Six Paths. Together, remembering what it was that the sage desired from the world, Hashirama and Madara would form a new village that would be known as the Hidden Leaf. The village was designed to be a beacon of hope to all who saw it, a beacon of peace and security. Together, the two leaders would work to bring an end to the conflicts that spanned the globe. Kurama would be pleased by this. Eventually, due to the formation of Konoha, many friendly clans would come under the same alliance, which would see the wars swiftly come to an end, as the power of many transcended the power of the few. Peace was restored, but for how long? The other rival clans, who could not stand up against the power of the Hidden Leaf, would lay low. They too sought an alliance, but they would rather die than join Konoha and feel as though they were conquered. So, the fractured shinobi world would proceed to slowly coalesce into various villages, the greatest of them all being Konoha, Suna, Iwa, Kiri, and Kumo. The various villages began to slowly attempt to collect tailed beasts. Suna would be the first to collect Shukaku. Kurama knew that this would not end well for his brother, as they would mistreat him. Kurama even considered rescuing him, though he couldn't, as by the time he showed up, Shukaku had already been taken from his temple. Not long after did the Gold and Silver brothers appear. They sought Kurama for their village, to make him their power. Kurama would confront them. He recalled their last battle. During that time, Kurama in his pride had dared to eat the two, thinking that that would be the end of it. But he did not realize that they were so closely connected to the Sage of Six Paths. He could not digest them, and worse still, they began attempting to eat their way out of him, which left Kurama ill to the mount of vomiting. And though he had not been captured by the Gold and Silver brothers, something almost as bad had occurred from this, in that they had absorbed enough of his chakra to become capable of taking on a sort of pseudo-tailed beast mode. Their survival, the power stolen from Kurama, had been what led to the demise of Tobirama Senju, the second Hokage. Furthermore, their impure reincarnations had been sacrificed to the Ten Tails in an effort to awaken it without the full Nine Tails. Kurama knew that he could not let this happen again. Regardless of what transpired, he would not devour them. He would not let them take his power, because if they did, many bad things would come of it. "Why have you come here before me?" he asked them, as if he didn't already know. "To capture you. You're a powerful beast, capable of wiping out entire villages. To have such a power as that in our village will grant us a power that none could ever dare to dispute." Kurama stood there, ready to fight. Looking them over, he began to remember why they were sent to capture him. They possessed the treasured tools of the Sage of Six Paths, including the Benihisago and the Kohaku no Johei, both of which were powerful sealing tools that could easily capture him and keep even Kurama inside. Kurama would slowly move around. The issue these two would face would be that Kurama knew how to use the tools as well, and because of that, their job was not as easily said as done. But there was still a threat to Kurama, as these two vessels preyed upon subconscious actions, such as saying a certain word that one used quite a bit, or simply answering when called. These two, when used in conjunction, would force one to speak, punishing them if they did not, while the other would punish the user if they did speak. Together, the items were a losing battle, but Kurama would be able to watch out for the triggers. He would just need to remain vigilant. The two began to prepare for battle. Kinkaku possessed the golden rope, Kokinjo, as well as the Benihisago and the Bashosen. On the other hand, Ginkaku possessed the Kohaku no Johei as well as the Shichisaiken. These two would work well together. It was to be the most intense battle Kurama had experienced in years, and unless the Fourth Shinobi World War or Ishiki Otsutsuki appeared again, it would likely be the greatest battle he'd ever face. His eyes filled with determination, Kurama would prepare for battle. Kinkaku and Ginkaku began to make their moves, growing closer. Kinkaku would attempt to keep Kurama's attention while his brother prepared to set up the Kohaku no Johei. The way that Kinkaku would do this is with the Bashosen, which would create all 5 simple nature transformations. With it, Kinkaku would create wind release to blow Kurama back, uprooting many trees in the process. He followed this up by creating an electric surge that would shock Kurama. There was no choice but to fight with everything he had. He knew that this battle could very well change the face of the land forever, scarring it, but some sacrifices just needed to be made, and this was one of them. Kurama formed a tailed beast ball in his mouth, firing it at Kinkaku. Kinkaku would dodge, but it would also rush towards Ginkaku, attempting to disrupt his work. Confronted with death, Ginkaku would decide to delay his work by moving to a new location. All the while, Kinkaku would begin to ready the Kokinjo. He would crack it at Kurama, trying to keep his attention. Kurama knew that if he was ever touched by that rope, it would pull out his most used word. Suddenly, he heard a voice call out to him. Kurama was smart though. That voice was the Kohaku no Johei attempting to seal him by getting him to speak. Ginkaku would then come through wielding the Shichisaiken. Kinkaku and Ginkaku would then trade weapons, the Shichisaiken for the Kokinjo. Now they were more balanced. Using the Bashosen to cause the stones to rise as massive boulders, Kurama felt them smash into him like the many pellets of buckshot from a shotgun. He felt the stones tear into his side, drawing blood from his ribs. A second wave struck him in the legs before Kinkaku created a flood of water to wash Kurama off his feet. The point of the attacks were to immobilize Kurama, if even for just a moment. It worked. Ginkaku with the Kokinjo would proceed to bind Kurama with the golden rope and begin to pull out his most used word, which was I. Kurama had never truly realized how selfish he had been in his life until he realized that the word he used the most was a word referring solely to himself. Kinkaku would then use the Shichisaiken to sever his word from him and put it into the Benihisago. From here on, anytime Kurama referred to himself, he would be in danger, but there was a slight bit of advantage in that the Kohaku no Johei would try to get him to answer by referring to himself. If he said I or his own name, or even made reference to himself in any way, he'd be sealed away. And even still, he couldn't remain completely silent, as doing so would cause the Benihisago to default and seal him away. So Kurama remembered who and what he was fighting for and proceeded to use that word instead. Naruto, he said. Naruto, he repeated. Ginkaku and Kinkaku were confused as to why Kurama would be speaking part of the word that comprised the name of the fish cake found often in ramen noodles. They assumed it was an attempt to not give in to any of the two sealing jars. They had no idea how deep the meaning was, but all the same, they reached the realization that Kurama knew what these tools were and how to avoid them. So they needed to do everything in their power to force him to stop paying attention to the two jars, or he would never slip up. They needed to up the ante. They further began yelling toward him questions and challenging his pride, threatening him even. "What in the world is a Naruto?" they asked him. "Do you mean a fish cake? You like fish cakes? We'll give you all the fish cakes you want in Kumogakure. Just surrender," they shouted. "Naruto," Kurama whispered again, remembering his dedication. He, finally back on his feet properly, began to rush at the two. "Kill you," he shouted at them, neglecting to mention his own self. "Die!" His 9 tails beautifully swayed through the air before quickly and violently smashing the ground before him like whips attempting to smash them. "Naruto," he shouted. "Love Naruto. Fight for Naruto," he said, reminding himself further. Kinkaku and Ginkaku released 4 stacks of paper bombs before Kinkaku used the Bashosen to summon a gust of wind. The wind pushed the paper bombs toward Kurama where they stuck to his fur. The two would raise their fingers into a half ram sign, causing the bombs to detonate. Kurama cried out in pain and agony as he felt bits of his flesh being burnt up and split open by the incendiary and concussive blasts generated from these weapons. Laying on the ground for a moment, he felt his body jarred from the attack. That's when Kinkaku spoke. "Hold up. This Naruto you speak of, it's not a fish cake, is it?" Kurama opened his eyes to look at Kinkaku as he spoke. "Naruto is a person. A weirdly named person, yes?" Looking into Kurama's eyes, Kinkaku spoke. "So it is, huh? Who names the kid Naruto? It's just so stupid." Kurama began to sit up, becoming more visibly agitated. "So tell me, what clan is this Naruto from? Is he Uchiha? Senju? Maybe Sarutobi? Uzumaki?" There was a sudden flare of fear in Kurama's eyes. Kinkaku noticed it. "Uzumaki," Kinkaku said. "I see. Naruto Uzumaki. Someone you care for deeply in the Uzumaki clan. Strange, I didn't think beasts had such emotional aptitude." Kinkaku offered a slight chuckle alongside his brother for a moment. Kinkaku then began to speak. "You know, I'll find Naruto. I'll find him and kill him." Kurama smiled. "Good luck. Naruto's out of your reach. You'll never find him." Kinkaku then spoke. "If he's in hiding, that'll do him no good. If I kill every Uzumaki that exists, then I'll surely kill your precious Naruto eventually." Kurama was nervous for a moment before his smirk returned. "You could never stand against the Uzumaki. You don't have the power to," he said. Kinkaku and Ginkaku laughed again. "Funny you should say that." Suddenly, the two of them shifted into their version 2 chakra cloaks. Kurama was surprised by this turn of events. They weren't supposed to have that power until after he ate them. "Where did you get that power?" Kurama asked. "Did you think we only ever came after you?" Ginkaku said. "There are more tailed beasts that Kumo has desired to collect. Among them is a certain tentacled ox that has long since fallen into our possession. And let me tell you, fried octopus has long since become one of my favorite meals. So tell us now, do you think we bluff when we say that we'll destroy the Uzumaki clan down to their last drop of blood?" Kurama was suddenly filled with terror. What if he failed here? What if they got away and proceeded to kill every member of the Uzumaki, including Kushina's parents? Without Kushina, there'd be no Naruto. Kurama felt his fur standing on end. "You dare touch them and what? What will you do?" they asked. Kurama then spoke. "Touch them and..." He stopped. He smiled. "Touch them and kill you," he said. Kinkaku and Ginkaku grit their teeth. Kurama was far more than just another beast. He was smart. "Okay, I guess we'll have to force you to beg for mercy." Kurama grinned brightly. "We'll show you why other tailed beasts are weaker." Kurama rushed toward them. These two perhaps possessed a version 2 cloak, but they were not the same strength as the one they took it from. And even if they were, Kurama was still quicker. Kurama would come upon them quickly, and for some time they went back and forth. The power of 2 versus the power of 1 felt as though it could push Kurama to the edge, but that being said, Kurama was at least twice as strong as even the strongest tailed beast, so with his great power, he would demolish the two brothers before also claiming their tools. With the battle over, Kurama returned to his rest, keeping control of the 5 items they left behind. Eventually, he would recognize that the time had come for him to seek out Hashirama Senju, and so he would load up the things he wished to bring as a peace offering and would say goodbye to his forest home for quite some time. As he made it to the village, he stayed quite some distance from the areas where people lived. His mere presence was enough to cause panic in the peoples of Konoha, which Kurama understood was the price of his daunting size, but he called for the leaders of that village, to which the best-trained shinobi would prepare the way for. At some time after, Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju would appear. Both had such magnificent auras about them, and with their arms crossed together as if this was just another Monday, they continued to farm it. "You asked for us," Madara asked. To some degree, Kurama felt an anger run down his spine, remembering what this man had done to him in another timeline. However, that was nothing anymore. Indra had changed, and so too should Madara have. Despite that, looking at the two, Kurama knew that even one of them alone could kick his rear end. They were a totally different level from the Gold and Silver brothers. They were more on the level of Hagoromo and Hamada, to which they and the others in this village were closely descended from. "I come to speak of important matters," Kurama said. "Speak at your leisure. We are here to listen," Hashirama said. Kurama remembered how respectful Hashirama was. It reminded him of Naruto in a way. That being said, it was different enough because there was a bit more confidence in there that could translate to pride if Hashirama was not careful. Kurama continued, "I've come to realize something. This world's villages have begun to enslave my brothers and sisters as weapons," he said. "The other-tailed beasts have been captured by villages seeking retribution against you, and in that way they'll come and destroy all that you've built." Madara then spoke. "For what reason did you come to tell us this, though? What is it that you desire? What could you gain by saving us?" Hashirama spoke. "Quiet, Madara. We do not wish to offend him. He's doing us a service, and we should be grateful." Madara spoke again. "Do not take my skepticism as a lack of gratitude. We would be naive to think that he would do something so kind for us without any reward." "Madara!" Hashirama shouted, trying to stop his friend from accidentally hurting the feelings of the Nine-Tails. Kurama raised his hand. "It's all right, Hashirama. Your friend is in many ways correct. In this world, among these people, it can be hard to accept something as free, even if some things are. That being said, perhaps I too have my reasons for coming here." Madara smirked triumphantly. He was right, and he was glad to know that Hashirama now knew it too. "What is it that you want?" Hashirama asked. "I've come to offer you these." He gave them the 5 weapons of the Gold and Silver brothers. "These are powerful tools used by the Sage of Six Paths, originally held by Ginkaku and Kinkaku, descendants of him. I now offer you these, and in exchange I ask to be sealed into one of your people." Everyone was now confused. You seek to be sealed away? Why would you attempt to make a deal like that? I don't see how you gain anything," Hashirama said. Kurama nodded. "In your eyes, it may seem that I lose everything, but to me, I gain everything. Listen, there are stipulations. I cannot just be sealed into anyone. There's a certain thing I desire. I must only be sealed into an Uzumaki from this point on. So long as the Uzumaki exist, I wish to be sealed into one of them." "The only Uzumaki in this village is your..." Madara trailed off as Hashirama nodded. "Why would you ask for this?" he asked. Kurama then spoke. "Because much like you, there are some in this village that I care deeply for. I wish to join you and to protect that which you protect. But I crave for my Jinchuriki to be Mito Uzumaki. Furthermore, after her there will be a girl born named Kushina Uzumaki. She'll be a transfer student from Uzoshiogakure, and she'll be my next vessel. And then, from her, there will be another. A very special young man who I care for very much like family. I love him more than I love myself, and wish to be sealed into him most of all." "You said these people as if they don't currently exist. How do you know that they will?" Hashirama asked. "I know because I have seen the future. I know what will come and when. You could say it's as if I've already lived a life with these people, and I wish to do so again. In exchange, I'll be a guardian protector for your village. I hope my proposal is something you will allow." Hashirama Senju stood there thinking about it. Madara drew closer to Hashirama before turning his face from Kurama to speak in a way that Kurama could neither hear nor see. Their conversation went on for some time. Hashirama then spoke. "Will you give me a few hours to speak with Mito? I am unsure if you're aware, but Mito is my wife, and I will not be willing to do this to her without her permission. Am I allowed time to ask her?" Kurama nodded his head. "Yes, you may speak with her, and ask her if she's okay with it. I'll remain here tonight. I will speak with you either tomorrow or whenever you're ready to finalize our contract." Hashirama nodded his head, and together with Madara and the other shinobi, retreated back to the village. Kurama waited outside for quite some time. He did not know when they'd be back, but he waited silently for them to arrive. At about an hour before midnight, Hashirama and his shinobi returned, Mito in tow. Kurama rose up once more. Hashirama stepped forward. "Great Ninetales, I would like for you to meet my wife, Mito Uzumaki." The woman stepped forward. Kurama offered a bow of his head in respect. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Mito Uzumaki. I'm the Nine-Tailed Fox, though you may call me Kurama," he said. "My husband tells me that you wish to be sealed into me specifically, and won't be pleased any other way. Is there a particular reason why this is?" she asked. Kurama nodded. "There are things I doubt I can ever say that would allow you to understand why I would like to do this." "Try me," Mito said. Kurama decided that the best way to do this was to be honest with her. "You see, I am a product of the Sage of Six Paths. I knew Hagoromo personally, and some of his power does flow through my veins. In another place in time, I fought alongside many great warriors, but when my time came, and I died in battle, I found my soul returned to the point of my creation, to relive my life all over again. If it helps you understand better, you may think of it like a very powerful space-time ninjutsu. For that reason, I know you already, and those who will come after you. During my original time with you, I did not ever truly come to understand or care for you. In the world of my origin, I was imprisoned against my will, and as such, I became bitter toward not only you, but toward humanity as a whole. But through you, and those who would later come, I came to realize the truth of my life and what it was all about. For the sake of protecting the world and protecting your village, I would like to donate myself to its service. But I ask for one thing in return. I wish to be sealed into those that I had in times past been sealed into, so that I may fulfill my desire of close, true friendship. With you, Miss Mito. With Ms. Kushina Uzumaki, who is yet to be born. And eventually with young Naruto, the one who would become my best friend, my brother even." Kurama lowered his head to her level. "So, Miss Mito, I suppose what I'm asking is, will you allow me to become your faithful friend? I will honor and respect both you and your privacy upon command. All I ask is that when you do not require privacy, that you maybe spend some time with me and let me grow closer to you. And in return, I will protect you and your village from threats domestic and foreign, from the present until the future unseen. Will you accept my hand of friendship?" Mito stood there, astounded by the things Kurama said. Choosing to trust him, she stepped forward and put her hand upon his nose. "Yes, Lord Kurama, I will gladly be your friend." Kurama smiled. "Great. So, first things first, you could stop calling me Lord Kurama. Just Kurama's fine." Mito offered a silent chuckle. "If that is what you desire, Kurama." And so the sealing team was brought out. As Mito laid there, Kurama also sat awaiting the moment. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "To be sealed inside of me like this. Will you not miss your freedom?" Kurama thought about it. "Honestly, when I truly came to understand the Jinchuriki I was sealed inside of, such a mutual bond of trust was formed to the point that I was allowed to come and go as I pleased. I know such a thing will not be available to us as we start, but I hope to lay the foundations of trust, in that one day I too will be able to freely come and go. I suppose what I seek the most is a bond with the people I care about. And though I can understand that you're skeptical of me due to never having met me, I've certainly met you before, and I care deeply for you, for your family, and for those who you will mentor. I feel truly blessed to have this second chance to meet you, a second chance to befriend you, a chance I squandered once before." "You sound like a very honorable person, Kurama. I look forward to the start of our relationship." And with that, they began the procedure. It took many powerful shinobi due to the strength and power of the Ninetales, but eventually he was sealed away within Mito. From here on, the world would begin to change. With the proliferation of the tailed beasts, other villages became bold, believing that they now possessed the firepower required to challenge even the great village Konoha. This led to a new world war, to which the bonds between clans were tested. It was through this war that the bonds between Kurama and Mito were also tested. Through mutual trust, they worked side by side to defend the village. "If I ask one thing," Kurama told the Hokage, I would ask that you defeat the Jinchuriki of these other nations and bring the tailed beasts to the land of fire to be protected, he said. They are my brothers and sisters, and the other nations will not treat them with as much respect as you would. I wish to free them from their burdens and remind them of a love that can spawn between beast and man. And so that was what Hashirama and Madara began to do. Through their hard work, the tailed beasts were freed from their hosts, and with Kurama's words towards them, he convinced them to seek refuge in a village that could and would offer them mutual trust and respect. It was a bit harder of a feat to do, but he convinced quite a few of them to do as he asked. With their freedom attained, the beasts would listen to what Kurama would often say to them, and due to his words they'd be pacified and opt to give humanity another chance. After all, it was strange to them to see Kurama possess a Jinchuriki as he did, but be offered as much freedom as he had. He didn't seem like a slave to Mito, but instead a partner who was allowed to leave whenever he pleased, and upon seeing how strong their bond was, the other tailed beasts began to crave something similar. Kurama would talk to the new Hokage about it, Tobirama Senju, who would have surpassed Hashirama due to the latter's untimely death. In accordance with their deal, the Uzumaki were to remain the personal vessels of Kurama. The other beasts were free to choose their own Jinchuriki as they pleased. From this, Konoha became the strongest village in the world, and with their great power attempted to keep order. As time passed, however, Mito Uzumaki began to grow old, and it became clear that her time was coming to an end. It was bittersweet. Kurama hated to say goodbye to her, but couldn't help but admit that the two of them had such wonderful memories together. Just as Kurama said, a girl named Kushina Uzumaki decided to come to Konoha to study at the academy in hopes of becoming the next Hokage, the first woman Hokage. She is the one I wish to be sealed into next, he said. And so Mito was brought in to mentor Kushina. They were cousins, even if distantly. This made them family. And as Mito and Kushina spoke, she would slowly bring Kushina up to speed about what her job would soon be. The Ninetales is the crown jewel of Konoha's might, and the symbol of our power to the world, but he's so much more than that. His name is Kurama, and he is the purest, kindest soul I've ever met. When I first came to know him, I was quite scared of him and what he was capable of. But through the battles we fought, the wars we waged, I came to realize just how valuable of a friend he is. Kurama, would you like to say hello? At about this moment, a very small fox seemed to light upon Mito's shoulder. He, for a moment, seemed shy upon looking at Kushina. He recalled how he had killed her, despite how kind and sweet of a girl she was. Mito took him from her shoulders and turned him to face her. She offered him to Kushina to hold. Kushina was slightly afraid. After all, imagine if someone's pet dog was also strapped with a nuclear weapon. You could imagine her hesitation. But despite this, she was very courageous and kept an open mind. Hello, Kurama managed to get out. Hello, Ninetales. My name is Kushina. It's an honor to meet you. Kurama smiled a bit. The honor is mine. Please, feel free to call me Kurama. That's my name. Kushina smiled. Okay, Kurama. Mito found a smile upon seeing the two bond. Every time Kushina would come over to see Mito to learn from her, Kurama would be given to Kushina to begin building the bond the two of them had. Kushina would come to enjoy spending time with the little fox, giving him lots of head pats because he was, in her words, a good boy. Even if such a thing was demeaning to a creature so much stronger and more intelligent than Kushina, it mattered little to him, as he loved spending his time that he had squandered with her. As time passed, though, Mito's age would begin to cause her body to fail. One evening, as she was at home, she suffered a massive heart attack. To most, they knew that such a thing would normally kill anyone else, and that her survival could only be attributed to Kurama. Kurama stayed by her side the whole time, tears falling from his face as he knew the end of his time with Mito had finally arrived. Mito would pat his head with what little strength she had left. It's okay, Kurama, she said. It may hurt. You may feel pain now, but remember, pain is the tool with which we determine the shape of love. I will always be with you. I will always love you, she said. Kurama would nod. Kushina would eventually be brought in during the night, having been awakened from her sleep just for this moment. Mito would offer her love to Kushina, telling her that she was glad to meet her and was proud of her. She told Kushina not to be sad, nor to be afraid. Everything was going to be okay. The same words she used to comfort Kurama, she used to comfort Kushina, and so the ritual began. Placing the seal upon Kushina, they opened both and began the transfer. Kurama would quickly find himself in a new place. Mito would smile and speak, telling Kushina and Kurama that she was pleased to have met them both and was now free to join Hashirama. Closing her eyes, she breathed no more. Kushina did indeed take this hard, but managed to recover. Kurama had a harder time doing so, even though he knew it was coming for some time. Kushina would take the little fox up in her arm, tell him that his heart was as big as the nature from which his form drew its shape. Together, the two would live together. Kushina and Kurama became a force to be reckoned with. Through Kushina's youthful nature, she ended up coaxing Kurama more than once into pranks and small acts of vandalism for the sake of fun. Yeah, the village really began to think bringing Kushina in and giving her the Nine Tails was a bad idea. More than one evening was spent by them cleaning up the messes they made. It was only fair that they did so. However, as all this happened, the village's enemies began to grow restless. Every tailed beast in the world was now under the roof of Konoha. Beyond that, they had a monopoly on the 3 great dojutsu as well, meaning it just seemed like they could not be challenged. The only way to challenge them was to capture at least one beast under their control, but which beast was worth capturing the most? Well, the answer was simple: the Nine Tails. The Nine Tails was still the strongest tailed beast, and it was believed that its power was great enough that should any other tailed beast be brought before it, all of them even, the Nine Tails would still win. And so, Kumogakure, the most headstrong of all enemy villages, set about attempting to capture the Nine Tails and its vessel, Kushina. The thing about that is, Kurama had plenty of strength to keep Kushina from being captured, but instead, he allowed it to happen. They tried to cast her under Genjutsu, but such a thing was futile. Only the strongest of Genjutsu could ever cast them both under an illusion. To that end, Kushina would ask Kurama to do something, but he told her to trust him and instead leave a trail of her own hair. Kushina had learned to trust Kurama, so she did so. The longer she did, the more confused she grew, but eventually the shinobi kidnapping her would be taken down one by one, and Kushina would be rescued by the young man named Minato Namikaze. "Why did you ask me to do this? To meet this boy?" she asked Kurama. Kurama offered only a smile before speaking. "I was testing to see if he was still just as dedicated. After all, I can tell you two have a thing for each other. You both simply don't realize it." Kushina would be surprised. "Mito said you wouldn't intrude on private things," she said. Kurama let off a chuckle. "Normally I do respect such boundaries, but this one's important to me." "Why?" Kushina asked. Kurama spoke. "Remember when I said I'd seen the future?" Kushina nodded. "Some things shouldn't change. Ever. This was one of them. In the previous timeline, I couldn't help you because the seal was stronger. This time I could, but I felt it was important for you to be rescued by Minato. Because I know how you feel about him. I can sense your heartbeat." Kushina began to grow redder in both anger and embarrassment. Kurama then spoke. "Calm down, Ku." She let him have it, bringing up a knot on his head. "Ouch," he muttered as he sat there for a moment. "In all seriousness though, Kushina, I know there's a seed inside of you, a seed of love. You really like him, and I know for a fact that he likes you. I know I shouldn't encroach on such things. After all, this is something that you should discover yourself. But the thing is, I've seen the future, and I know there's one person in this world who makes you happier than even I can, and you haven't yet discovered it. But I don't want the changes I've made in my life to take that away from you." Kushina began to feel bad for slapping Kurama silly. She pulled him up in her lap. "I guess I can make an exception for you, Kurama. After all, I guess you do know best sometimes." Kushina would continue to pet him. "So, what should I do?" Kurama then spoke. "You should be honest with him and tell him how you feel." "That's a bit nerve-wracking. I mean, what if he doesn't like you? Do you not remember who you're talking to? I've seen the future, and I can tell you now, he likes you. So what are you waiting for? Just tell him. Don't beat around the bush, but try not to come across too strong. Just simply tell him about how you feel the same way you told me. He'll understand." Kushina thought about it and took a deep breath. "You're right. You're always right." Kurama smiled. "Atta girl. Now go knock him dead." Kushina would eventually confess her feelings to Minato and would be surprised to hear that he reciprocated. Once again, though, the Hokage would pass away, leaving an elderly Madara alone. That was when Hiruzen would take his place. Despite his age, Madara was sharp as a whip. He just needed someone to help him with, bathroom things. All the same, Hiruzen made for a good Hokage who respected the wisdom of his elder. From here, Minato continued his career as a shinobi, all while trying to balance his relationship with Kushina. The two continued to date for some time until Minato and Kushina were both sure that they were ready. From then, Minato would propose marriage, something that brought Kurama immense joy. Kushina would eventually marry and begin to live with Minato. But a time came when Madara would pass away from old age, and the role he fulfilled would be left open. The question was, who would fill that role? There were two candidates according to Hiruzen, that being Fugaku Uchiha and Minato himself. However, the longer that Hiruzen remained in office, the more he came to realize that he wasn't as cut out for it as he thought. And so, for the sake of the village, and for the sake of his own desire to simply retire, he would do exactly that, and name Minato and Fugaku both as the next Hokages. But during this wondrous time, another miracle was taking place inside of Kushina. The conception of a very special boy in the heart of Kurama. Kurama kept close to Kushina the whole time of Naruto's conception. He would often feed some of his own chakra into the unborn child to strengthen it and keep it healthy, while also doing the same for Kushina. This was a very important part of Kurama's life, and he wanted it to go well. And thus, one night in October, a certain child was born. As Kushina held the baby boy in her arms, she was so glad. "What do you wish to name the child?" Biwako asked. "Naruto," Kurama said quickly. He then looked up to see the rest of the group looking at him. "Sorry." Biwako looked at Minato and Kushina. Minato then spoke. "It is true though. Kushina and I settled on the name Naruto." "Why that?" Silently judging the two new parents for cursing their son with such a laughable name. "It's special to us." As Kushina held the child in her arms, Kurama drew just a little closer. Extending out his paw, he touched the child and spoke. "Hi, Naruto. It's been a long time. Tears began to fill his eyes and he smiled. "I missed you so much." And that's where I'm gonna call it for now. What do you all think? Honestly, I felt that this was one of the more heartfelt stories I've told in some time. Kurama just had so much character growth, softening up and freeing himself from the hatred gripping his heart. How could a story like this not be touching? Well, anyway, if you enjoyed the story, be sure to tell us about it in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when other videos like this drop, and while you wait for those, be sure to check out these other great videos too. Until next time, peace out.